Hello, everyone in YouTube land. Welcome to another YouTube video. For today, I want to say happy birthday to someone that I've followed, admired, and really loved their records and live performances for a very long time. And that's Mr. Buddy Guy, who turns 90 today. And I want to talk about a few recollections I have seen him in concert. And I laugh because, the sheer brilliance of his music and guitar playing and his sort of also his stage theatrics, just his pure sort of Chicago club style, brought over here to sort of stuffier concert halls in Britain was always and still is, I think, a delight to behold. So, just a little bit background on Buddy briefly. So, as I said, born 90 years ago today in Lettsworth, Louisiana, leaves to parents that are sharecroppers. Amazing, really, isn't it? Leaves quite young, goes to Chicago, meets Muddy Waters. It's a famous story where he meets Muddy Waters and he's starving and Muddy Waters gives him a sandwich and he's saying, "I'm the mud." He said he thinks he sounds like he's saying he's getting mud. He enters anyway a competition and with other guitarists, I think it's Otis Rush and whatever, and wins and gets a record contract with Cobra, then records with Chess and records with Muddy in the 60s. I was thinking the classic folk singer album where it was actually one of the first unplugged records, if you want to go by those sort of terms. But Buddy plays acoustic guitar, but he also plays and gets or records with the harmonica player and singer Junior Wells with Delmark. And they record a lot of classic stuff there. I actually think some of that's actually better than the stuff he was doing. Chess didn't quite know really how to, I think in the early days, quite how to package him, but this actually still really worth listening to. As in terms of recollections, it's sort of the Delmark stuff that I come into it. So it goes back a long way. My mother worked for the Esquire, British London-based record company, Esquire, under the auspices of Carlo Kramer, who was a drummer that was very connected with Ronnie Scott's and the British jazz scene. But he also imported records in the 60s from the States. My mum was a typist or type work and typesetting for Carlo Kramer. And in the 80s, when I was really discovering music myself, I'd go through all their old singles, and in there was a copy of some of the Buddy Girls and Junior Wells stuff and the Ships on the Ocean and tracks like that, which I played and just immediately hit me the raw sort of like electricity of those records. There's something very real going on there, very stripped down. I was sort of instantly pulled in. I wouldn't really know how to place it or what it was. It was all, I bookmarked it for future reference, as they might say. Coming a little later on, we're going towards the end of the 80s here. Eric Clapton, who my mum was a big fan of, and she'd seen with the Blues Breakers back in the 60s, sort of the resurgence of his career, and brings Buddy Guy to London along with Robert Cray to do a series of blues nights at the Royal Albert Hall in 1990, the first time. I think in 1991 they bring Albert Collins over as well, but 1990 I was the one I saw, and it was a Sunday night. This is a memorable gig here. So it's a Sunday night. Went to the Albert Hall. Clapton did his set on piano. Had Johnny Johnson, who played with Chuck Berry, incredibly written a lot of that stuff. Chuck Berry's band leader, and also played with Albert King. Great pianist. Fantastic to watch him play. Clapton and Jamie Oldacre on drums that he used to have from the 70s lineup, because Robert Cray's bass player he had there, and then so he did a set, and then Cray came out and did a set, and then Buddy Guy came out, donned in a caftan, obviously had a few brandies backstage waiting to go on, but was all the better for it, and sort of just took over the show. He started off with this sort of a revamp of his 60s cover of Barrett Strong's Money, and then went on from there. And I remember, he did his tricks. The album was quite again difficult to get off the stage down into the front of the audience. He would do the guitar slim thing, walking through the audience. But so what he did in this one was he went up the side, he got on the stage off the side, and he walked up and into the audience. And I remember him with the guitar playing furiously. That's the band sort of played on behind him. And I think he did actually sat in someone's lap playing the guitar. She looked, you know, but it's scared at first. I think she warned her. And he continued, and he sort of just carried on. And this was obviously a Sunday night show. I think, there was stuff about people getting home in the tubes and connections. There was a sort of duty there to bear. But on he goes. And I remember we were quite near the front. I could rush the stage at some some moment of concert, got quite near the front, so I could see Clapton and Buddy and Robert on stage. And I clearly remember Clapton looking at Robert Cray and mouthing, "I don't know what he's going to do," and he's sort of changing the keys. He's just going, "Let's C minor, let's do this, do it in this," and on it went, and it eventually wrapped, and everyone was sort of gobsmacked that he'd done this. And I read a lot later on, Clapton had said that he actually got fined for it overrunning, so he had to very sensibly have a word with Buddy Guy. And so Buddy Guy didn't have a drink the following night apparently, and came on, did his 45, and that was it. So in the following night he just said, "Do what you want," and gave him carte blanche. And he said he played ball, he did his thing, but that's very memorable. I mean, you try going to school on Monday morning after you've seen Buddy Guy, take over the Royal Albert Hall the night before. Bloody difficult to do, and it kind of ruined me in some, maybe in others, and set a path from playing guitar. I mean, it was just so galvanizing. Fast forward a little bit, Buddy Guy comes over. I think he pays part of the JVC, the Capital Jazz Festival concerts that take place in London, always it used to take place in the July, usually at the Festival Hall. And I saw him there several times, and there's another one that really stands out that we went to see him, and reasonably good, well, quite good seats. And went with a friend of mine as well, and my brother, I think. And as we were waiting, I think my brother said to me, "Don't turn round, don't turn round, don't turn round." It's guaranteed to make you going to turn round, isn't it? But sat behind us is Peter Green, and I went, "Yeah, you'll see us." He went, "No, he is." So obviously you've got to turn around, so slowly sort of edged around there. There's Peter sat with Nigel Watson, who was the guitarist, and his friend in the Splinter group at the time, Nigel Watson's sister Michelle, and there's Greenie himself right behind us, ready to watch Peter Green with the sort of closed down look on his face that he would have out in public. And you knew not to really disturb him. And on came Buddy and did his thing, and it was amazing. And a little later on, we saw Peter Green out in the car park, and we parked up. It was the bizarrest evening. I recently had to check with my friend that was actually true, and I hadn't imagined that. We did. Peter Green was sat behind. Other concerts I just remember, some recollections of along the way of seeing. But he did several times. He did the thing with the long lead. The roadie would have the long lead, and he'd get on the stage, go through the audience, and he did that at the Royal Festival Hall. I think it was an easier thing to do than the Albert Hall, and come down, and they'd set it up, and off he went. I also remember a memorable time when he seemed this went on for ages, more near the front, so he had to turn right around, and he came out, went through everyone, continued it, went out the door, and you could still hear the guitar go, the band are playing away. And then about 5 minutes later, he come back in through the side door by the stage to rapture for applause. And he apparently gone and he'd gone outside, tried to go down the escalator, and the guitar lead wouldn't go down that far. All of that sort of stuff, and that was amazing. And there was always there was there was a tension in the shows that you didn't see with the with other performers, or you didn't see with BB King. Even when I saw BB King, God rest his soul, how many times that I saw that man and his great band and all this. But that's another video. That's another video. Um, there was a tension with Buddy, and I remember going seeing him once. I think it was actually a bank holiday Monday night, and he came out and he started out really quiet, really slow blues, brought it right down, and it seemed to go. And I think it gets to the point where most people are moving around in the dynamic. He stays down there, he brings it down, to a whisper, and you get lulled into it. You get pulled in, your ears get pulled in. Suddenly, he hits it. The band are there in seconds. They're right on it, and it sort of plasters you against the back. It's off. Absolutely amazing, incendiary, most exciting. I think I put a post up from this morning on X and Blue Sky, and said, this is the most exciting performance seen live, because you didn't know where it's going, and he would change around. It was, you know, uh, suddenly stop. He'd go into like Voodoo Child. With his Wah paddle, he'd start doing Strange Brew by Cream, and there was no particular set list. It was just free. It was still like bringing this excitement, this clucking, like the drumstick, sometimes banging, things like totally atonal, sort of like, free playing. And it was amazing. And I also remember he could sort of playfully talk with the audience as well. Um, Seeing him at the festival hall not long after Julia Wells had died in 1998. Again, I think I was quite close to the front there, and slowed it down, and he started talking about the people that he'd lost, and people over the years, and he mentioned Steve Ray Vaughan and other players that had gone on. And he started to talk about Julia Wells. Some guy was just excited. He was trying to shout out, but he brought it down, and he just looked at him and told him, "Shut the fuck up," like that. And he someone smiled. It was playing, but he meant it. And the guy shut up. He would do. And we shouted out, shut the fuck up, my buddy guy." Right on. And so it was just always amazing. And then the stuff I've seen of him since, every time he plays with something like Clapton, the look on Clapton's face is this wildness that he brings to it that no one else, certainly no one else that I've seen or has been around for a long time, brings to their concert. And he's still out there. And I know he retired. I know he came back. Um, he doesn't care. I mean, there's just so much out of there now of his stuff, and the resurgence in the late '80s and the early '90s. And damn right, I've got the blues. A bit of a super session, great album of some of the songs. And there's one he did with Sweet Tea, when he was called Sweet Tea, where he sort of re-engages or goes back, or sort of looking, plays in a North sort of Mississippi blues style. That's really affecting album. There's great stuff. I love This Is Buddy Guy from 1968. I think if you can dig that out, that's a great record. Some of the '90s ones are a little bit more commercial. But there's always something worth hearing in there. I think I'll go back and try and find the lesser well known Stone Crazy, that I think was recorded in France in 1979. That's an incredible record, and it's just so much of, the Festival Express DVD came out, the tour across Canada, the Grateful Dead and others were on. I think Janis Joplin, the band, those performers and Buddy Guys and that, and just the performance he does there is just absolutely takes off. He's got AC Reed, the great saxophonist, with him, Phil Guy on guitar. And he takes that one over as well. It's just this unbelievable mixture of this raw blues, this showmanship, this sort of free craft, the way that he would play, the way that these things would come across. I'm just free associating now. I'm just thinking of all the times. So I remember watching him while he was on some Channel 4 program years ago, music program called Wired, and they show the beginning of the Chicago blues film. They showed the beginning of him playing first time I met the blues on a big Gibson or a Guild, It's just simply unbelievable. There's just so much there. So I'll post on Twitter and Blue Sky as stuff comes up of performances and uh, all the stuff that he's done over the years. I'm just it's just so galvanized. It's just so exciting. The fact that he's got this that living link back there and he's still going. You know, what a performer. What an artist. What what a career. It was such an interesting career, and it really take a downturn in the 80s. I think he's out record contracts, and then he comes back and he's rightly got his place where he is now. So that's just a few of the recollections. While I remember, I'm sure I'll remember some more over time, but and I might put them back up again. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Happy birthday, happy 90th, buddy. Very much. Have a good day. So thanks very much, and I'll be back. I'll see you soon. Bye bye now.